Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Every now and then I see a story where a court rules on something in an unusual way, and then I look at it and go, but wait a second. Why didn't I think of that before? Chris sent me a note from CBS News. Court finds towing of cars with unpaid tickets unconstitutional. And as soon as I read the headline, I thought, wait a second. That is kind of a strange situation, that you have unpaid tickets. They can tow your car. But there's other things that you can do in this life where you don't pay fines and they don't come and just take your stuff. So why would a car be any different? And interestingly, when the state tried to defend this, the city that is, tried to defend this, they had a hard time coming up with a good argument. So towing cars that have accrued unpaid parking tickets without a warrant, a common practice in San Francisco and many other places, violates the California Constitution. The California Court of Appeal decided Friday. So that is towing the car without a warrant. So the court's saying, if you think you're entitled to take possession of that car, go get a warrant. See what the court says. The city implemented a practice of towing legally and safely parked cars if they had 5 or more unpaid parking tickets, and the owner had not responded within 21 days of issuance. So in other words, they don't come across a car that's illegally parked. They're about to ticket it, and they go, wait a second, this has got unpaid tickets. No, they come across the car, it's legally parked, everything's good, but it's got unpaid tickets attributed to it. After a car is towed, car owners must provide proof that they've paid the outstanding tickets, and in that case, they can get their car back, but if the tickets go unpaid, the city would then sell the cars at junk auctions, which is pretty much what they would sell for because people don't know, do these cars even run? We don't know. Court found that the practice violates the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches and seizures without warrants. The city argued, and here's the thing, this is the city's argument. The city argued that their towing practice qualified for an exception from the warrant because the cars were a threat to public health. That legally parked car is upsetting my health. The court rejected the argument. The Coalition on Homelessness, a nonprofit organization focused on advocacy for impoverished and homeless people, filed an appeal against the city over their towing practices, claiming that it targeted low-income individuals. And of course, it's not targeting them in that sense, but they are more likely to be in the situation. In San Francisco, thousands of households are on the brink of homelessness, where a single adverse event can thrust them out of housing, says the executive director of the coalition. Poverty tows are one of those events where the loss of a car leads to the loss of the transportation needed to get to work, and suddenly the household can't make rent. Advocates call the practice poverty tows because they have a disparate impact on people who cannot afford to pay parking tickets. The tows oftentimes cost the city more money than they bring in. That's the other argument people were to make and say, well, Steve, whether or not it's a health issue, obviously if somebody owes the city $500 in unpaid parking tickets, if we can take the vehicle out and sell it and get our $500 back, well, then at least the city's being made whole there, right? Well, that's assuming that's what happens. But if you take the vehicle and you tow it, now you've got towing fees, impound fees, storage fees. Those add up, trust me. And then by the time all the dust settles, you need there to be $500 surplus after that stuff, because that stuff and like the cost of the auction come off first. Okay? So according to a press release from the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, the tows oftentimes cost the city more money than they bring in. These tows are not unique to San Francisco, according to the press release. Elsewhere in California, they are done in places in the Bay Area, including Oakland. Legislation banning poverty tows for unpaid tickets has cleared the California Assembly. The bill, as Assembly Bill 1082, would prohibit towing or immobilizing a vehicle with outstanding tickets and would increase the number of unpaid tickets someone can have before the DMV can place a registration hold. Now, there's a different thing there. If the state wants to or the city wants to, they can pursue it through the registration of the car. And they can say, if you want to drive that car, we're going to withhold the registration from you until you pay your tickets. And that makes a little more sense to me because they're not taking the car from you. You still got the car. It's just that for you to drive it, as you know, you need to have it registered and so on. And so that can just be something to add to that. But the idea that you have a few unpaid tickets and they seize your car, regardless of the car's value, and they auction it for pennies in the dollar, and then they pay off all their fees, and they might not even pay off the tickets. It just seems like a draconian measure. A spokesperson for the San Francisco City Attorney's Office said they are disappointed with the decision. While our advocacy during oral arguments helped shape and narrow the final decision, we are disappointed by the overall decision and believe it further impedes the city's ability to maintain safe and healthy streets, said the city attorney's office spokesperson. We are reviewing the decision and considering appropriate next steps. And so if you think about it, it is an unusual situation in that you have a car and you park it, and you overstay the meter, or you park it in the wrong spot or something, and it gets a parking ticket attached to it. Now keep in mind that it is the car. The person who parked it is actually the one who broke the law. So you actually immediately have a disconnect, potentially, between who did something wrong and how it's being assessed with respect to who is getting hit. Because let's suppose you borrowed someone else's car. You park their car illegally, they get a ticket. Now they can fight the ticket and take it up with you or whatever. I'm not saying fight it and win it, because if the car is illegally parked, it's illegally parked. I'm simply pointing out, though, that there is a disconnect there. And the second you have a disconnect, it suggests that the courts should step in and clarify these things or straighten them out if somebody wants to dispute them. So let's suppose that for whatever reason the city thinks I have 5 unpaid tickets, but I don't, and they come and seize my car. My car disappears. Where did my car go? We towed it. Why? It was a health hazard. It had 5 unpaid tickets. What if I didn't know that? What if I knew that, but I wanted to fight it? So that is a concern, but keep in mind that generally speaking, if you do something wrong in our society, and our society is going to say what you did was wrong, therefore you should be punished, and the punishment might involve, a fine or something, we have a thing called due process to which you're entitled, which means that you have an opportunity to be heard and an opportunity to know what the charges are against you, and some meaningful way that you can go in and represent yourself or get yourself represented, but go in and make sure that the process is proper. The towing of the cars was, in essence, self-help. Now, it was considered legal at the time because the court hadn't ruled yet this way, but I've mentioned before that I had a professor once who said self-help is fraught with peril. Self-help is fraught with peril. Because if you go to court and get a court order and the court says, yes, you can do this thing, if you go out and do that thing and somebody comes back and goes, hey, that was wrong, you go, no, I got a court order right here. Court order. Court said I was okay. And so once a court says it's okay, well, you're good to go. Prior to this, courts had always said, well, you towed the car and the law says you can, you're good. But I don't know that anybody had ever raised the constitutional issue. And the Fourth Amendment says that for them to seize something of yours without probable cause, there's an issue. They can go to court and get a warrant, but of course when you go to court and get a warrant, you have to explain to the court why you need a warrant to do what you're about to do. So you say, we're going to go seize this car. This car is legally parked, but it's there. We're going to go seize this car. What right do you have to seize the car? Unpaid tickets. Okay, is there any other way you could resolve this issue with the unpaid tickets? Or is simply seizing their car a way to get leverage over them? Because that's really all it is. In that case, why not lien their house? There's all kinds of things you can do to get leverage on somebody. And so this is an unusual ruling, but I agree with it. I agree with it. So obviously, if parking in California is such a problem that people aren't paying their tickets, they could do things to fix this. Among other things, they could amend their constitution. But it appears that the court is talking about a section of the California Constitution which parallels the U.S. Constitution, because they mentioned the Fourth Amendment. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But as of right now, vehicles in California which are illegally parked and not causing any other trouble cannot be towed due to unpaid tickets that arose previous to that, unless they go to court and get a warrant. And the question is, could they even get that warrant? Don't know. But that's a big, big change to the law in California. From CBS News, Chris sent it. Court finds towing of cars with unpaid tickets unconstitutional. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Facts are meaningless. You could use facts to prove anything that's even remotely true.